Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
All you people are so scared of me.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Man, that's just me.
I'm Batman.
This is Sparta!
There is a tiger in the bathroom!
I'm an excellent driver.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Pop quiz, hotshot.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
It's you.
No, it's not. McTwist brought us the wrong Alice.
It's the wrong Alice.
You're absolutely Alice. I'd know you anywhere. I'd know him anywhere.
Hello and welcome to this week's Tuesday movie show. You probably knew I was going to do that.
This week's Tuesday show, next week's Sunday show, and then the week after that Sunday show. Yeah.
But this is the Monday movie show. We're on a Tuesday. It's the 31st of May 2016.
We're halfway through the year.
Yeah, I know. We make this statement every single week.
But we are now literally on the cusp of halfway through the year.
But yeah, there's a few reasons why we're live on a Tuesday. The one we're probably going to choose is to give you 2 extra reviews. So
that's the reason.
That's our excuse for us to be live on a Tuesday night instead of a Monday night, because then we can actually give you 2 movies that technically aren't officially released until Friday. We're on previews from Monday up to Thursday. One of them had a weird embargo. I'll get onto that when I actually review the film a little bit later on, but it's a bit of a confusing mess, the way the studio decided to handle the embargoes attached to that specific film. But do you want to go through the films we are looking at this week?
Yeah, okay. Well, starting off with the normal releases, so the films that came out on the last Friday, we have Alice Through the Looking Glass and Money Monster. Then the couple of films that we'll go over, sort of kind of full but quick reviews, because we'll do them properly as well on next week's show on Sunday. Which is weird because it's this week really, but then we have Duncan Jones' Warcraft adaptation from the video game, and we have the sequel to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is subtitled Out of the Shadows.
Yeah, and it is Warcraft, which has had the weird embargo. I'll just go through it now. What it is Warcraft originally in the UK had an embargo of the 30th, which was yesterday,
because it's released ahead of America by a week as well, isn't it?
But that was the embargoes for the UK only. In America, the embargoes was actually set for the 4th of June. Now, the embargo was actually lifted because the movie got released too early in places like France, Sri Lanka, countries like that. So reviews were actually starting to come online from companies also who saw the film early but were actually breaking the embargo. So the embargo was scrapped and it was removed on Friday of last week. So officially, reviews were allowed to actually go live Friday of last week. However, the reviews officially should have only gone live yesterday.
Yeah, but it doesn't really matter because we're now on today. That's whether or not it's...
We're reviewing it on tonight's show, but that was the mess that happened with Warcraft. It's a good job that the Blu-ray and DVD section we don't have to suffer through embargoes, so we're looking at these films.
We have another kind of adaptation of something, but not of a direct novel, but based around a series of novels with Goosebumps. We have a sequel, which I'm really looking forward to seeing how Stuart covers Ride Along too, because I know that's going to be good.
Move along.
Yeah. We have the Snoopy and Charlie Brown movie and the Peanuts movie. Which is the kind of the animated movie of the week, I guess, but also we've got Capture the Flag, which is also an animated film. And then we're rounding out with the Michael Caine, Harvey Keitel drama Youth, and the Sandra Bullock drama Our Brand is Crisis.
Yeah, and on top of that, TV Movie of the Week, Blu-ray DVD Top 10, UK Box Office Top 10, but we'll kick things off with movie news.
Yep. Starting off with the piece I've got is it's not been a big week for news. I don't know how many things you've got, but I don't imagine you've got a massive number of things. I'm going to prove me wrong now. 6, yeah. So even you're not in double digits, which is typically the kind of thing you'll just show me up with. Though I have been away for a few days. But the piece of news I've got is that there has been sort of not officially confirmed, but leaked by an actor. That they've possibly been added to the cast of the Kingsman sequel, The Golden Circle. Jeff Bridges tweeted #Kingsman is all he put in the tweet with the poster for Kingsman: The Golden Circle. So I mean, it's a case of, you know, it's not been anything confirmed, but it's pretty much that, unless Jeff Bridges has gone way ahead of things and he's not got the job or anything like that. But I'd say it's pretty sure bet Jeff Bridges is going to be in the Kingsman sequel, which is released on 16th of June 2017, so just over a year away.
The thing is, though, that's how Elton John confirmed he was in the film.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the same thing, and that's exactly how Channing Tatum confirmed he was in the film as well. He did pretty much exactly the same thing.
I'm just wondering if they're going to be like cameos or something now. There's going to be some kind of like celebrity crisis thing going on.
Well, I know that Channing Tatum's they haven't revealed his character, but they have dropped hints to the fact that his character is going to be one of the main ones. So it's not like a blink and you'll miss him kind of cameo. It's not an and role.
It's not like
Elton John's one is supposedly rumored to be an and role.
It's not like a Preacher Tom Cruise reference.
No. Or when we do get on to Warcraft.
Well,
there's an interesting. I sort of like knew who it was when I heard the voice straight away. But when you see it, a few people who don't actually recognise the voice straight away, but as soon as they see the reveal and recognise the actress, they go, "Oh, she's in it."
I recognised her.
Yeah.
If it's who I think you're talking about.
Yeah.
So somebody from Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. I recognised her straight away. I did. Yeah. But yeah. What news have you got though?
Fatal Attraction.
Oh, that's just giving it away completely there.
Well, it could be Michael Douglas. It could be.
But we said her already.
It could be Michael Douglas. It could be. So yeah, it's been fully 100% confirmed now that Emily Blunt will be playing Mary Poppins. I haven't got this down as official news. I've only just seen it before we came on air. That she is confirmed to be playing Mary Poppins. The film is set for release at Christmas 2018, and it's going to be called Mary Poppins Returns.
Yeah, I was seeing something about that, but I wasn't sure what it was, so I didn't go for it. But okay. So is this going to be more of the Disney doing? I mean, they did obviously Mary Poppins has had a live action thing, but there was, because of the time, obviously there were cartoons mixed in with it. So is this going to be them just redoing it, or do you think they're going to do a whole, you know, retelling of the story like they did with they've been doing with the Disney things?
It won't be a retelling because it wouldn't be called Mary Poppins Returns. By the hints of it's going to be a follow-on or a sequel or some kind of alternate different Mary Poppins or a younger version of Mary Poppins, like a prequel, something like that. I don't think they'll go for a remake of it.
We'll see, I guess. But
yeah, Disney have also said that there is going to be a live action version of The Little Mermaid as well.
I'm just wondering, does that mean that Dick Van Dyke is coming back again for Mary Poppins?
No, I doubt he will. He'll probably crop up. I know he was at the Billboard Awards earlier on in the year, and he came out and did a dance number, and he's like 91.
Yeah. Is it going to be like a murder, and they're going to need a doctor to come along and solve the murder?
Possibly.
I've watched too much daytime television.
Yeah, just step away from BBC. Just step away from it there at like 2:05 in the afternoon.
Oh, you know the time? That's bad.
People don't know what we're talking about. It's a program called Diagnosed Murder, and his son was in it as well.
Yeah.
My mum used to be obsessed with that program. It's been confirmed that the third Maze Runner film, The Death Cure, which is an aptly titled film, has been pushed back by a year, so 1 full year. This is after lead actor Dylan O'Brien is being told he needs to go on rest after having an accident on set. It's still not been revealed what the accident was. The film now will be released on January the 12th, 2018 instead of February 2017.
Yeah, this is different to the previous news, because the previous news we had was that it had just been postponed indefinitely with no idea what was going to happen. So it looks like the studio's going, okay, right, we can try and get things back on track, try and work around. The news before, because we had it, it's not been anything confirmed or denied, but the rumours have been that there was an incident with a vehicle, that somehow he was hit or fell or something something to do with a vehicle accident of some kind that thankfully didn't result in, you know, anything death, you know, things like that. It's oddly the title, you know, but it's thankful that that's not happened.
Yeah, I mean, it was obvious that it. So what's happened with they've had to shuffle around a few films, just move a couple of films forward and then move a couple of films backwards, just to slot in the next Maze Runner film into the new release date. But it's good that they're actually giving it such a gap, because then what the director could do is he could look over the film itself over the next few months, see what he can tweak, see what he can change around over the next year. Actually,
absolutely.
See what extra he could do to with the film before the actor comes back, and then maybe change a few things around. It gives them more time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not always a good thing, but giving a little bit more time, because these films have definitely been, with the second one, definitely there is that feeling of that it was rushed slightly. So obviously more time for doing the third one means that they can look back at what didn't work with the second one and try and correct those issues.
Yeah, last week we reported that Tom Hiddleston is supposedly the number one favourite to be taken over from Daniel Craig as James Bond after betting was suspended on it. Now it looks like somebody else has had his name thrown into the hat, because reportedly he has had conversations with production company and could be Broccoli's wife, etc. And that person is Jamie Bell. So now Jamie Bell is rumoured to be playing James Bond in the next Bond film.
See, I think he's too young, but I don't think it will be Tom Hiddleston. I just don't see Tom Hiddleston in the role. I just don't see it working for him. I'm trying to think of an actor, anyone in particular I can think that goes, says to me James Bond, but
that's why I want them to actually do something different, instead of going to an actor which looks like you can look at him and go, that person would be a good James Bond. Go for somebody who we would not expect them to choose, to try and attempt to do something different, instead of going for somebody who will go, yeah, he would be a good Bond. At least try to be brave instead of going for the obvious one, because a lot of people are screaming out to seeing Idris Elba to be the first black Bond. It was also rumoured that Gillian Anderson, she was going, I want to play a female James Bond, and so let's try something different there. No offence, but I think they need to actually keep the character male. But I think they should go with an actor who you probably wouldn't expect, or somebody just slightly left field. Not like go completely insane and give it to Sacha Baron Cohen to play James Bond, but just somebody slightly different who you wouldn't think.
Yeah, I mean, there's an actor who I know, he won't be known to anyone really, but there's an actor who I know just from, because I work with people on sort of fun projects at the weekend, small things, and this actor actually has gone on from doing small projects, and actually I think I helped with, and he's doing sort of other roles. He's actually a proper actor, and he's in like an upcoming Guy Ritchie movie, which has been finished for a little while, has been pushed back for its release date, which is a kind of an King Arthur tale. And it's basically it's trying to think. I'm actually just checking it now when it was that it's due to come out. I think it is 2017. It's been put back to, and the actor's name is Craig McGinley, and it's basically, I'm going to say that because people have been saying, and there's been mention from various places that he could possibly be up for it. I'm not saying if he's had anything at all. I have no idea, but I've seen him in some like test footage of things, and I've seen him actually in person doing a role, because I recorded sound basically, and he's definitely got sort of the intensity. So I mean, he's known from things like adverts and stuff. He did photo shoot things as well. He did a photo shoot with David Beckham for watches. So I mean, he's got the publicity that he could get recognised for it, and but I would just laugh if I mention that, and then in a few months' time or something we go, a guy named Craig McGinley's been hired for the Bond role,
Yeah, but somebody different. The last two pieces of news story, one's slightly personal to me, and one I like to end off on a bit of a what really, Hollywood, what you doing kind of story. But it's a Studio Ghibli related story, this one. So you might want to put your finger in your ears and go la 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 a lot. But please. Okay. But Studio Ghibli animator Makiko Futaki has died, aged 57. Now the reason why that's really important for me is Makiko, she worked on every single Studio Ghibli film. Not just one or two of them. Since Studio Ghibli formed as a studio in 1984, she's worked as an animator on every single one of them. So that's more than 26 films, 26 animated movies she's worked on, and not just like little bits where she touches up scenes or whatever. A proper full-on character animator, background animator. She's worked on every single film. So that studio is now pretty much gone. There's a Studio Ghibli season, isn't there, running through multiple different cinemas across the country, like 26 different cinemas across the country. Only yesterday is getting re-released on Friday. And the final one, which is getting a proper release when Marnie was there, the final Studio Ghibli film, that gets released next Friday, which I've seen already and I absolutely adored. We'll get on that when I review it properly, but it's sad to actually hear that somebody who worked on every single one of those films has passed away.
Bit kind of a almost legacy.
Yeah, and the final piece of news, and this is the what? But there are certain adverts in the UK which gets on your nerves, isn't it? There are characters which get shoved down your throat from advertisements, which you go, oh. Or when you go to the cinema, you see pretty much exactly the same advert over and over again, and you don't want to see those characters again. Well, unfortunately, the Meerkats from the Compare the Meerkat advert are getting their own movie.
Simples.
It's not going to be Simples, unfortunately. But they are getting their own movie.
Okay.
Yeah. And on that note, the UK box office top 10, then at number 10 is a new entry for Thomas and Friends, The Great Race.
This is the Thomas the Tank Engine's, I don't know if it's live action or if it's just
can you
it's
actually classify Thomas the Tank Engine
yeah,
as live
because it
action
wasn't,
animated?
was it, I don't know if it was ever, I know when, I've seen the posters for it and it looks like it could be either, because I haven't seen any footage yet, I haven't seen the trailer.
It's the old-fashioned
so
Thomas the Tank Engine, so the kind of stuff that we grew up with.
So with like the conductor's just like a stick figure that hasn't moved and things. Okay, but obviously it's a modern updating of it and all. So no idea. I mean, it's obviously been released and not done massively well to come in at number 10. It probably won't be around very long, and I think it will probably just be relegated to the Saturday morning showings for kids. You know.
It won't be because it was only out in cinemas for a weekend. So this is the only week we're going to actually see it. But from what I can gather, the story is about Thomas in a race against other trains across the world, different kind of trains. So it was only in cinemas for one weekend, so this will be the only weekend it gets in there. We'll skip over number 9, which is The Secret Cinema 28 Days Later. Yeah. So number 8 is Our Kind of Traitor,
which I quite enjoyed. It is a adaptation of a John le Carre novel. You've got a great performance from Stellan Skarsgård. You've got a really good performance from Ewan McGregor at the centre of it, and it's one of these kind of spy thrillers, but without a spy in it. It's just a man who's thrown into a situation and finds himself sort of asking, you know, what can I do if I you know, can I walk away from this, or do I feel obligated that I need to get involved? And I quite like that aspect of it. I thought it was quite nicely handled, and I thought it was a little bit predictable towards the end, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was really nicely done.
Number 7 is Florence Foster Jenkins,
which is a nice kind of feel-good movie. It's a weaker of the kind of the two big feel-good movies we've had this year. The better one earlier in the year being Eddie the Eagle, but this one is filled with two great performances at the centre of it, with Meryl Streep and in particular Hugh Grant, who is this really interesting. I actually found him a much more interesting character, because he's a character that you start off not particularly much liking, and by the end of the film you actually do come around to him and find him to be a very, very sort of appealing character, and a very nice, interesting character, which is always good. But the best one again, and I've forgotten his name again, I can never get it, Simon Helberg, that's it. I knew his first name, but you can get his rest name. Is also gives a great performance up against the two of them, because it's a nice sort of tete-a-tete between the three of them. And it's a fun film, and surprisingly it's only a PG too, so it's something that you can go and see. It's a kind of thing you can suitably go and see with your parents and your grandparents, and they'd enjoy it as much as you would, probably even more.
Number 6 is a new entry for Hologram for the King,
which is a disappointing film, firstly because it's Tom Hanks, who generally picks films that work very well for him, and it would seem, I think, on paper that this film would be very good for him, but it's not. I don't think it's all entirely down to Tom Tykwer's direction, but he is the one who's written the script, so he knows what he wants to do. I do think though that it's, I don't know the book obviously, but it's an adaptation of a book, and it feels as if there's maybe half the book here. It doesn't feel very much filled with details. It doesn't feel as if it's got a lot of information in there. It feels very vague in some sections, and very much like it's just trying to be a simple story, when it just feels like there should be more here. And it's a film that it kind of gives you mixed signals for the main character, which by the end of it you walk out and it's literally you walk out and it's not bad, but it's just meh.
Yeah, and it has two scenes, I know they're brief but fleeting scenes, which I can't believe they've got away with.
Yeah,
12
push away the 12A ratings.
To be honest, one's drug related, one's sexual related, and that I really can't believe they got away with those two scenes. They should have just been taken out because they weren't needed in the film itself. But it just makes you question who actually sat through that film to actually give it its certificate. Because if I was on the BBFC's board, with it being a 12A, you can take young kids to see that film if you want to, as long as you're, you can do that if you want to. But they are going to see two quite controversial scenes, so I would have just snipped those two scenes out. Number 5 is Bad Neighbours 2,
which is a better film than the original, which isn't saying a massive amount because the first one isn't a great film, but the thing is that it's kind of like, it's almost like they've taken the time that you would have had between a first film and a second film that's been kind of 10 years, and it's grown up a little, and it's got rid of a lot of the puerile jokes, even though there are still some in there and there's influence of those, but it has grown up, and it's shown that by having changes to the characters, by having the kind of a touch on the subject of sexism and the way that women are treated as opposed to men. So it's got that kind of aspects to it, and it's nice to see a sequel comedy to a film, like, unlike things like The Hangover where it's stuck in the same rut it was. This has actually kind of evolved slightly.
And number 4 is Captain America Civil War.
We've pretty much done everything we can on that, and I mean, I really loved it. I thought it was great. I think it's one of the best kind of top 3 Marvel films ever made.
Number 3 is The Jungle Book.
Great adaptation from Jon Favreau, but the leaps and bounds it makes in the animations and the effects is what keeps it interesting and visually impressive, as well as having a good story and a great performance from the kid that plays Mowgli in it, the only live action performance in the whole film.
Yeah, number 2 is the Angry Birds movie.
I still haven't seen this yet, and I want to see it.
Yeah, it's going to be hanging around for a while because the kids are on half term. So kids are obviously, my cinema was stupidly packed today, and the ones who couldn't get in to see the new Turtles movie were probably either gone in to see Warcraft or something like Angry Birds. But yeah, it's fun. Who would have thought that taking a very simple idea with the video game where you've just got a bird in a slingshot firing at our pigs to try and destroy where they are, to create a film out of that. And it does work for what it is. It doesn't try to attempt to be anything like groundbreaking or anything Pixar related or anything like that. It just tries to be entertaining for the 90 minutes that it's on for. And even though it takes a while to get to the crux of the film itself, it's still okay. And number 1 is a new entry for X-Men Apocalypse.
Yeah, which I was disappointed with. I didn't hate it, I just found it to be very baggy and unnecessarily filled with certain details that didn't need to be in there, and I thought some of the writing for especially the beginning and the last half of it was very kind of basic and poor at points. I talked with people over the last weekend who someone actually absolutely disagreed with me on it, and I understand their points, but I think they're wrong. I think it's actually my least favourite out of the 4 superhero films there have been this year. The others being Civil War, Captain America Civil War, Batman vs Superman, and Deadpool. And I actually rate all of them, even Batman v Superman, which a lot of people had big issues with, better than this film. I was disappointed with it. Looking at the figures for its takings, just over £7 million. As much as that's a great number to take in at the UK box office and taking it straight to number 1, I don't think it's doing as well as they were hoping it would, as the previous film was. When I saw it, I've actually seen it twice because I agreed to see it a second time already before I saw it the first time. And the second time I saw it was the Friday night that it came out. Obviously, it had a bit of lead up because it came out on the Tuesday. And the Friday night showing, I saw it in big screen, and it was not 25% full capacity, which on a Friday night is bad.
Yeah, it's just annoying the fact that there is something said in the film regarding a different trilogy, and they say that it's the worst of a trilogy. Yet you need to actually look at yourself in the mirror, considering that this is the worst of a second trilogy.
Yeah.
Because
if it had been self-referential in that, doing it as a joke, kind of like Deadpool. No, it wasn't. And if it had been, it was like Deadpool, then it would have maybe done something clever there. But it didn't. It just had them. It's basically making a dig at The Last Stand, the actual third film. So this is the sixth one, and
Oscar Isaac as Apocalypse just felt like a reject from the first Power Rangers movie. It just felt like he was Ivan Ooze's little yappy brother. And it was just badly implemented. There's a lot of things that's badly created in that film. There are a few okay moments. I also didn't like Quicksilver's stuff. I forgot to mention this on last week's show, but I thought the introduction of Quicksilver in the last X-Men film was smart, the way they actually did it. The way they did it with this, they thought, you know what, let's do it again, but let's do it bigger, and it just felt flat. I was really, after that scene finished, I watched it and go, that was bad. That was just really badly created.
I didn't think it was bad. I just thought it was quite lazy, repetitive, and it was almost a parody of itself, which is what the problem is in that scene as well. And the tone of that scene is what's happening. It just felt very out of place and badly misjudged.
I just didn't like that scene at all. On the new releases, then the first up is Alice Through the Looking Glass. It's the sequel to the Tim Burton's Alice movie, which was released a few years ago. This time taking the helm is James Bobbin, who did the Muppets movie. And so it stars Mia Wasikowska, which is how you actually pronounce her name. I've been wondering how you actually fully pronounce her name, but it is Wasikowska.
Did you confirm it in an interview with someone or something?
And I've just been hearing stuff on YouTube how to pronounce her name. But yeah, I think she's got a Russian surname. You pronounce the W's as V's. So that's why it's Wasikowska.
Yeah, I think is that not Polish?
It might be Polish, might be Russian. It's one of those ones anyway. But yeah, it's Mia Wasikowska who plays Alice herself. And the film opens up where she's on her ship on a voyage. She's trekking across the globe, trying to discover different civilizations, different people, different cultures. She comes back to her homeland. It's set in the late 1800s. She discovers that her mother has decided to give up the house, 10% share of the house that she's got, so Alice can have a better life. However, the guy who she's gone and give the shares up to is a very pompous person. As a matter of fact, Alice turned him down for marriage. So while at a dinner party one night, she escapes into her room and discovers a mirror portal to Wonderland, which is I found slightly strange because lo and behold, there's the mirror to trek into Wonderland. She journeys in through the portal into Wonderland and discovers the Mad Hatter is gone under a really desperate state of depression, and the only way she can actually get him out of depression is if she goes back in time by getting this device called the Chronosphere from Time himself, who's played by Sacha Baron Cohen, to try and change things for the better or worse. Here's a clip giving you a feel of what the film's like.
Hatter? Hatter? Oh, it's you! You're you again!
Well, if I'm not, I wish I was. Have we met?
Yes. Well, no, I mean, not yet.
It's funny, I feel I shouldn't know you.
Well, we have met once, when I was younger.
Oh, well, I'm afraid I don't recall.
That's because it hasn't happened yet.
Oh, when will it happen?
Years from now, when you're older.
I'll meet you when you're younger and I'm older.
I realise it doesn't make much sense.
Makes perfect sense to me. I'm Tarrant.
I know. I'm Alice.
Alice, you seem to have time all mixed up.
So there in that clip there, you heard Johnny Depp reprising his role as the Mad Hatter, and then you've got
Can I just say as well, that's funny because the clip I selected at the very start of the show, that kind of ties in with that, given I haven't seen this one, but I did see the original one, and it's a very odd, funny thing. The clip turns out that I'd picked ties in with that sequence there, oddly enough.
Yeah, well, the film itself has two different story strands. You've got Alice trying to help the Mad Hatter and getting this chronosphere by journey back in time and changing things. Then you've also got the story about how the Red Queen became what she is, the Queen of Hearts. How she's got that very weird shaped head, and how an argument with her sister, who's played by Anne Hathaway in the film, caused that, because you discover that as kids they were obsessed with jam tarts, and on one night one of them decides to sweep some crumbs under the carpet, blame each other, and an accident occurs, which you then see how the Queen of Hearts became as nasty as she is. And so you've got a kidnapping plot running alongside that, and the Queen of Hearts' ultimate goal is to also get the chronosphere. Now, the thing with Alice Through the Looking Glass is, unfortunately, it's not entertaining. It's just not. It's a muddled mess of a movie, because the fact that it's got the multiple strands, and it also has a lot of different characters. None of the characters seem to want to resonate that much. Johnny Depp as the Mad Hatter, you've got that voice there, and if that grates on you as soon as you actually hear him talk, then every single time he speaks, you just want to tell him to shut up. You just want to shove actually a jam tart in his mouth to tell him to shut up. It's a good job he's not in it a lot. It's actually down to Mia Wasikowska and her plight to try and get the chronosphere from Sacha Baron Cohen, who plays Time. And so I think Wasikowska, she does an okay role of playing Alice. She's got, you heard her in the clip there, she's got a very childlike demeanour on her, and that's the way you actually need to play Alice. But when it tries to do things dark, it fails, because it thinks that it needs to interleave some humour into it. When it tries to be inventive, it fails because it doesn't feel inventive enough. When it adds in the extra storyline strand about the two sisters, the two princesses, and what actually happened to the Queen of Hearts, then it doesn't work very much there. And surprisingly for me, the only thing that stood out is Sacha Baron Cohen. I don't like him. I really don't like him. He really does great on me. But as Time, I think he actually brought a little bit of nuance, a little bit of a spark to the film. He was the only person who seemed to actually care about the character that he was playing, because the best thing about when Sacha Baron Cohen is given a very insane character, he just goes at it with aplomb. He loves to do that. And when you find a character that fits his personality, it works. And I think Time does fit his personality. It's just everybody else is quite flat, and the film itself overall is very flat and just very forgettable. And considering it's from James Bobbin, who brought the Muppets back on the big screen, you expect slightly better from somebody like that. You expect a bigger spark, something more to grab hold of you and going, you know what, we're going to have a fun ride here. It's a PG and we're going to enjoy ourselves. There's going to be things in it for everybody to look at. When you just, in fact, you're more looking at your watch going, when are you going to end? And it drags on. It's on for nearly 2 hours. And you just want to cut out a good 20 minutes from it and tweak around the storyline a lot. It's quite forgettable, unfortunately.
Okay, that's interesting, because going on to the other film that was proper release this week, is Money Monster, which is directed by Jodie Foster. It's written by Jamie Linden and Alan Dufour, and it stars a cast including, you have George Clooney plays Lee Gates, you have Julia Roberts plays Patty, and the two of them are friends because he basically is one of these guys who's he's a money sort of one of these guys who goes on TV in one of these money advice shows, but being American and the way it's done, it's one of these ones that, you know, they go in there and it comes out with a dance number sort of thing. It's this kind of cross between a money advice show and the kind of thing that's all, you know, a big style thing, and it's all that kind of thing. Julia Roberts is the person who produces it and runs it all behind the scenes from the control booth. He's out there on stage doing his thing, and it's all talking about the fact that there's this big company that has overnight gone from being a really big successful thing. He had sort of said about, you know, oh, this is a good buy, get in on this, and then what's happened is overnight the company has basically had a big problem, and due to a technical fault has lost $800 million of value. So during the sort of the later show, they're doing this, it's all done live, and in walks a character played by Jack O'Connell, who has a gun and puts a explosive vest on Lee, holding him at hostage and telling them, you know, don't stop the cameras. If you do, everyone, you know, this will blow up and he'll be killed. Here's a clip.
What is this? Who wrote this?
Somebody from my office.
You see? This is what I'm talking about. That's your problem. You just sit there behind the little desk instead of trying to figure out what really happened.
You know what happened? It was a computer glitch.
A glitch! A glitch! A glitch! Shut up about the glitch! All right? What the hell does that even mean? You see, you don't even know. I'm not stupidly, I told you. Because somehow these clowns lost $800 million overnight. Overnight. And nobody's even actually explained how. How is something like that even possible, huh? It's not a rhetorical question. I want an answer.
What do you want from me, man? I don't run IBIS. I'm just a guy on TV.
Shut up, Lee! Shut up!
So you hear in that scene the performance from Jack O'Connell, who is, you know, at points doing that whole shouting, screaming, gonna lose his mind, about to, you know, blow the bomb sort of thing, and you have that going on. You have Julia Roberts, who's in the control room dealing with everything and trying to sort out things, while at the same time deciding the fact the only way they're gonna kind of get out of this and solve this problem is to actually go about as if they are reporting it, cover the show, do the show, but also at the meantime organise, have people going out and trying to figure out what actually did happen to this $800 million. And you have this all going on about the whole thing of what's going on with the company. You have the head of the company, he's played by Dominic West. You have all that going on. You have the SWAT outside waiting to go in and sort of deal with the situation their way. So you have Giancarlo Esposito in there playing sort of the leader of all that, and it's all perfectly put together in that way. But the problem is with it that it doesn't really go anywhere for a large part of it. And it's not that it doesn't go anywhere in the film, because it does. It's just you sit there and you're thinking, I should be more into this, I should be more engaged with this, there should be more going on, I should be white knuckling parts of this, and I wasn't. I just wasn't in it that much. I didn't care that much for the characters as I should. It started to get a bit interesting, and then there is a point in the film where you will either have something happen, you'll go, okay, I'll go with it, that's fair enough, or you will completely just go, that's it, I'm lost, it's lost me. It's a film that the more it goes on, the more ludicrous it gets. It does have tangents of things like Dog Day Afternoon and the whole situation of that. You have the whole thing of like phone booth of somebody being held hostage in situation and having to basically realise, I need to do this, otherwise I'm going to basically be killed. And it has that, but it doesn't ring true that it has any impact. And ultimately, even by the end of the film, events at the end of the film, it ends, and you just kind of go, well, you know, that's fine. And whereas it should have basically come out of it, and you should have gone, okay, wow, that was kind of, you know, it should have actually had that gut punch to you, and it doesn't. It just ends, and it has that kind of a damp squib effect to it, that you just sort of walk out of it and you go, that was okay, but it's just completely forgettable. It's one of these films that the sum of the parts should be so much greater than it is, and it's a shame, because again, it's just it's not a bad film, it's just you walk out of it and you go, that was good, what's next? And it's just that you're not going to walk out of it and go, that was good. Oh, you know, the situation with money and everything's bad, because we know this. It's not something a new thing, but it doesn't really try and cover that more. It should say something more about that, and it kind of like it wants to, but then it reels it in and says, no, we're going to make this a 90-odd minute film. We're just going to be quick, do that. We're not going to actually have any impact, and that's the problem. It's just done.
The thing with the film, which I found, is you've got a slightly problematic movie when you can interchange the cast, when you can take specifically George Clooney and Julia Roberts, you can take them out of it and actually replace them with pretty much any other actor and actress to actually play their roles. When you actually watch those kind of films, specifically thrillers especially, and dramas, you need to have an actor who seems to embody the character itself. That's how you are tense. That's how you sit on the edge of your seat. I think Jack O'Connell is probably the one he could not get rid of.
Yeah.
I think he tries his hardest to just bring some kind of impact there for you to feel his plight. He tries his best. But because it feels like he's banging his head against the wall rather than just screaming like he is with the conversation he had there with George Clooney's character, he feels like he's banging his head against the wall because it just looks like Clooney is just having a tiny little bit of fun and just not getting what his character is. Whereas Julia Roberts, It feels like she's sitting in the booth itself when she is directing the TV show that she's doing. Like, she's got the script there and she's just specifically reading the lines from the script, and that's it. Just I don't think they embodied the characters very well. It had absolutely no tension in it whatsoever. And again, that's a big problem when you've got a thriller. You need to be able to sit on the edge of your seat. You need to feel slightly unnerved about what's happening. You want to actually try and go, I wonder what's happening next. When in fact, you're not doing that. You're just going, I wonder when this is going to be over. And it is one of those forgettable films. You walk out the cinema and a couple of days down the line, a person will go, did you see that money monster? And you'll just turn around, yeah, it's fine. What happened in it? Well,
a guy was held hostage and that's it on TV.
So it's just, it's okay, but it's not something that should have actually set the cinema world alight, considering that it's from an actress who's been in these kind of films before in the form of Jodie Foster.
And she does know how to direct. Yeah. She does know how to direct. She can direct. And I don't necessarily think it's down to just the direction. I do think the script is, I think it's very light. I think it needed more, and it should have had more. And I think it may be a bit as well towards the end, especially with the last kind of quarter of the film, it writes itself into a corner. When if there had been more to that, it wouldn't have mattered, because you would have cared more if it had been doing its job properly for those first 3 quarters of the film.
I think in the last quarter of the film it panics.
Yeah.
It just panics when it tries to expand itself, and it just expands itself too quickly. It's sort of like that kind of feeling when you've ate so much food and you unbuckle the top button from the trousers, and you just go, that's exactly what it felt like with that film there. It unbuckles its belt and then just all of a sudden just lets it all hang out.
Yeah, so there's a moment, basically, I don't want to spoil it, there's a moment where there's basically a character makes a decision and does something, and you either go with it, as I said, or you go, well, that's me, I'm out.
No, I felt like I just wanted to watch. On to the 2 films that are out, not officially until Friday, but we are reviewing them on this week's show. We'll quickly go over them on next week's show. The first one up is Warcraft, directed by Duncan Jones, who did the brilliant Source Code and the equally brilliant Moon. And this is billed as the movie that might actually bring turnaround video game movies. When there are films coming out this year also video game related in the form of Assassin's Creed, which is out at the end of the year, and we've already had the Angry Birds movie, and so this was the one where people were eagerly looking upon. The basic story, because it has got a bit of a complex story if you don't understand Warcraft. However, if you're sort of like know what the fantasy elements are like, you'll follow it along, but you won't understand the crux of it. It's set in 2 different realms. One is called Draenor, which is the realm of the orcs. It's their own home world. And then you've got Azeroth, where pretty much every other being lives. You've got humans, you've got elves, you've got dwarves. They don't know the realm of the of Draenor, of the orcs itself. Now, Draenor is dying. Everything is just dwindling. You've got the leader of the clan of orcs, Gul'dan, who's voiced by Daniel Wu. Because you've got like CGI characters, but you've also got people who've done motion capture. Daniel Wu has done Gul'dan. Now he is the high priest, the high sort of like wizard of the orcs. Now he wants to open up this huge massive gate to try and take over the realm of the humans, to call it their own home. However, obviously the humans don't want to give up Azeroth. So with the help of Anduin, who's played by Travis Fimmel, and you've also got the King, who's played by Dominic Cooper, and you've also got the High Priest, the high sort of like magician, Medvin, who's played by Ben Foster, and sort of like his underling, Ben Schetzner, who was in Pride, who plays Khadgar. They need to try and stop the orcs. Here's a clip.
You'll take us to them.
No.
You'll take us to them, or you will end up like your friend in the cage.
You think you're fearsome? Orc children have pets more fearsome than you?
We're not trying to be fearsome, Grona. We're trying to protect our people, our families. If you help us, I give you my oath. You will have your freedom.
Now, in the orc clan itself, there seems to be a bit of turmoil happening when one of the orcs, Duratan, who's played by Toby Kebbell, who you've seen in the last Planet of the Apes film,
Well, you've seen him in The Last Planet of the Apes.
There wasn't a character called Scar or something like that.
I can't remember. It was like the second in command ape sort of thing.
Yeah, and so motion captured by Toby Kebbell, and you've also got his sort of like his friend who's Ogrim, who's done by Robert Kaczynski, who's also done this kind of motion capture stuff before. They seem to have they're thinking that Gul'dan, what he's doing is wrong, and they want to try and team up with the humans to try and stop him. Now, if you're a Warcraft fan, you'll understand absolutely everything to do with the film itself. Every single tiny little nuance. You'll look at Azeroth and go, you know what? The video game world and what Duncan Jones has actually created is pretty much the same. You'll look at Draenor and you'll understand that it has got a very orcish feel to it, especially if you played Hearthstone. If you look at the backgrounds in Hearthstone, it's very much, they've got the Draenor feel to it. And again, with Azeroth as well. So fans of it will understand absolutely everything to do with the world, whereas people who come into it who don't know what World of Warcraft is, are sort of like getting dragged along to go and see it. I think they might struggle slightly because there is a lot there for them to understand, but if you put on your brain of like a Lord of the Rings kind of film, you'll understand it. And I think that's what Duncan Jones does best with the movie. He never overly confuses people with it. He never goes, you know what, I'm just making a movie for the Warcraft fans. He tries his best to make you understand the plight with it, because it gives them a very simple story. One evil group against supposedly one good group. The evil group want their land, they need to stop them. It's a very simple, basic story, and I think Duncan Jones handles it very well. The motion capture is brilliant, but what did you expect in this day and age when you do see motion capture movies? You do see proper facial reactions and not somebody who's very deadpan, and so it flows okay. It's got times where it does sag, where it lacks a little bit, and then all of a sudden it decides to throw in a big massive set piece, and I could sense that a few people in the audience when I went to see the film were getting a bit bored of it. But overall it's actually not bad. A lot of critics, and I mean a lot of critics, because at the moment it's got a 35 from on Metacritic, have been really sniffy about the movie, and my guess is those are the kind of critics which don't understand the video game, and they're just looking at it as a video game movie when in fact they should be looking at it as a fantasy film. And so they're reviewing it like it was a video game, which is the wrong way to do it. That's how the video game fans should do it, not the non-video game fans. And so I think they're being stupidly sniffy over it. It's not like epic, but it's not really terrible. And there are two little references which I got, which you will only get if you're Warcraft fans, which I sent you a message and I was walking back home. It was like 20 to 1 in the morning when I was walking back home, and I said, I can't explain it to you. And it involved Murlocs, which Murlocs are the creatures near to the start of the film where you heard them go, wow.
I can't believe you're doing effects
across
things.
The bridge, going to meet the king for the first time, you hear a creature go, wow. And that's a Murloc. And as soon as I heard that noise, I was in fits of giggle, because that's a Murloc, that. And then there's another reference about 3/4 of the way through the film where a god gets turned into a sheep. Now that made me giggle as well, because there's a card in Hearthstone where no matter how powerful the monster is that the other person's got on the field, there could be a 10-10, so their attack is 10, their defense is 10. As soon as you play a sheep card, they get turned into a sheep. So they have a 0 attack and 1 defense, so you can instantly destroy them. And so that made me giggle as well. So they were the two like major geek.
You're getting really into geek territory here now. You really are getting.
Those made me smile, and I understood them. And so the people, I think, because I saw this film at like 10 o'clock at night, and most of the people in the screening of it actually giggled at those two scenes. They were the only two scenes that they did properly giggle at that I heard a rapturous giggle, but they understood them, and the two tiny little minute scenes. So it shows you what Duncan Jones did. He just added a few little bits there for die-hard fans of the series. I'm not a die-hard World of Warcraft fan, but I understood them. I actually quite liked the film.
Alright, I have years ago played World of Warcraft, and I played it maybe for about, I think I had it like 6 months to a year, around about that time. And I never really massively got into it. I was never a hardcore player of it. I played it a bit, built up a bit, got to some point, and then I just lost interest and stopped carrying on with it. And so I went into the film, and I obviously knew of the World of Warcraft, but I didn't know it in detail. And the thing is, that didn't matter. The film does a good job of setting up things. It does sometimes explain some things in a bit of detail, but a lot of the time it just sets up simple things with it says, it comes up with the name of the place you're on the screen, and eventually you start to learn, you take this person to this place, and okay, that's where we were early on. So it does a good job of setting up the lay of the land, which is what is necessary for this kind of a thing. But it doesn't dwell on that. It doesn't go. It's not like you have to be knowing that. It gives you a little bit. You know, once you go into it, this person says they're going to this place. They're going to that place, and it makes sense. The thing that was interesting about it is that you have now. Fantasy films are notoriously difficult, perhaps the most difficult genre to make them, because of the fact that a lot of the time they tend to fall into that kind of cheesiness, and the whole thing of every now and again there's that sort of tend for the actors to tend to turn and sort of nudge wink at the camera and everything like that, and the people go about they're taking it too seriously and stuff like that. But in this film they focused on it. Actually, they're doing it as a serious film. They're not, and it's not that they're going, it has to be taken seriously. They're playing it seriously. The main character, played by Travis Dremel, he is a character that goes through difficulties in this film and has emotional things happen in this film, and you're actually there with the character, and it's not that it's like play forever. You think this happens, you actually watching it and you're going, you know what, I'm getting into this. I'm actually, and you'll find yourself at during the film going, this is a bit ridiculous at certain points. You go, that's a bit over the top, or something like that. The action sequences are nicely handled, and then you'll go, I'm actually enjoying this. I'm having fun with this. You might get to a point where there's some bits where there's maybe a little bit of cheesy dialogue, but it's never cheesy that it goes to you, oh yeah, we're just doing this film. It doesn't matter that we're doing cheesy dialogue. It does the dialogue, and it just happens to be cheesy. You have characters who say things that are funny, but they're never. You have like the one character, and I couldn't tell you the character names, is a bad thing because I'm just not great with the names. But the character who is a magician, not the one that's played by Ben Foster. There's another younger character brought in. I couldn't tell you, but basically
Ben Schnetz's character who he was in Pride.
Yeah, well, that's the kind of role that if this film had been done a certain way, it would have been someone like Rob Schneider or a comedian that would have been cast in the role to be a comedy sort of sidekick role.
Or it would have turned out to be like Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, and they decided not to do that. They haven't played it for laughs. They haven't done it that way. They've done it as a serious fantasy action adventure film, and it's impressively held together and stops it from falling into that trap of doing that, which is what I really do applaud Duncan Jones for. It's not a fantastic thing. It's not Lord of the Rings. But damn it, I enjoyed it. I came out of it and I instantly said to my friend that I saw it with, who also really enjoyed it, that was pretty damn good. I want to see the next one. I hope it does well so I can see what happens next, because it definitely is a setup for a trilogy, and I want my second Warcraft film.
Yeah, and early indications there. I know they increased the worldwide box office take and guesstimate by $5 million because they predicted, because it hasn't opened up in a lot of places that would give it a big, huge, massive opening.
It hasn't opened in the States yet, but it's opened a lot of places in Europe where it's doing very well.
Yeah, so it was originally, they predicted around about 25 million that it was going to make in its opening weekend. It's in fact, now they've elevated that to 30 million. So that might give you a little indication that it is doing slightly better than they expected.
I'm curious to see what the budget is on it, because I know it won't be tiny, but it won't be, but it'll be, because the thing is, I view it as well as I think it will be a case of that, as long as it does well, then I think that Blizzard, the company that makes the game, who's funded it largely, will go, you know what, we'll make more. As long as, because if they see more people taking up the game as part of the interest of the film, then there'll be more films. And if it does well, it'll be more films. If it does really badly and nobody goes on and plays the game anymore because of it, then obviously they'll dump it. But I hope that it's going to go the other way. I hope that it's going to go well, and that will be the outcome.
Well, I think we've got a different deer in the edge now when it comes to movies, because the fact that this is partially funded by the Chinese as well.
It's the China Film Company as well, yeah.
They're actually more braver to do sequels to movies that you might think didn't do as well in America, because they're the ones who are pushing ahead with a new, just multiple films like that, so let's just hope.
Yeah. Okay, the other film which was released on Monday, but officially comes out next week, this Friday, is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows. This one is directed by Dave Green, so the previous film was directed by Louis Leterrier. Both of them produced by Michael Bay. This one's written by Josh Applebaum and Andre Nemec. And it has the return of the Turtles. You have the character of Megan Fox's character, April O'Neil's back. She is investigating at the start of the film this company where she is looking into the whole situation of them basically being a company that was working with the Shredder from the first film. He's about to be moved to another prison, and so the Turtles are sort of watching this sort of situation and thinking, oh, maybe we need to watch out for this because the Foot Clan is going to maybe try and help him escape. And it's the carrying on from that. You have the film has sequences in it, as you can imagine, big action bits, including one sequence where at one point the Turtles are on a plane trying to sneak to another country, and the people that they're trying to sort of chase and catch are on another plane which is going to be passing below them. So of course, what do you do when that happens? Of course, you open the plane's door and you decide to jump out. Here's a clip.
Oh boy. We gotta go now. We only have a 30-second window. You know the plan. Dudes? What? He jumped. He jumped? All right, one for all. Wait, you don't ever shoot! Woo!
I don't need to shoot. I got my board! Oh, this is awesome!
Gotcha! What would Vin Diesel do? No regrets, no fear!
Is he coming in kind of fast?
So here's the thing with this. The first film, there was that film of it was obviously a produced by Michael Bay film. You watched it and there were certain scenes and certain shots in the film that were definitely, Michael Bay did this, Michael Bay did that, and sort of thing. Michael Bay influenced it this way. And there's more of that. There is literally in the first 5, not even 10 minutes, there's a sequence where April O'Neil is following someone trying to hack basically and copy remotely copy their iPads thing. And she doesn't get it all done, so she starts following them through, I think it's Grand Central Station, and she sees there's a bunch of girls there in dress up as schoolgirls taking pictures. So of course she walks over to the shop, steals a little skirt, puts it on, and then quickly sort of changes her shirt and ties it up and everything to look like it's a schoolgirl outfit, and then poses with them to distract this guy and get the information. And it's like literally go, and we're back. And Michael Bay may not be directing this, but he's definitely got his grubby mitts all over it again. And there's the whole stupid things of the action sequences, which are just over the top ridiculous and stupid, terrible things. And you've got the introduction of the new character Casey Jones, played by Stephen Amell, who pops up and really has no other things than to be largely a plot device. And it's not brilliantly well written. It is one of these terrible sequels that just carries on from the first one and doesn't even have any of the moments of the first one that kind of make it interesting, because the first one had some moments that were great. There was the downhill snow chase sequence, which is a really nicely handled and good fun action sequence, and there's nothing in this one that there's any sort of sequence that you think, I like that one. You have the whole thing, it starts tying in this whole thing of the Krang character, which has been brought in, like it's going, we got this character from the comics and from the cartoon series we need to bring in, so we'll just throw him in. And it literally it's a case of look, there's Krang, okay, what's happening here? And you sit there and going, well, what now? And and then it turns into almost like a Transformers thing by the end of it, with these big thing being built coming through interdimensional things, and it tries to do like, you know what the Avengers did with the whole thing of a portal opening. It basically does that, but it makes it all gobbledygooky, and you're sitting there going, what now? And and yeah, you know, cowabunga, oh right, and they're doing this and jumping that, and really? And if it wasn't for the fact that it did get some laughs and intentionally show some of them cheesy, some of them, but if it hadn't been for the fact that I did laugh at parts of it, I would have just come out and gone absolutely awful. It's not absolutely awful, it's close to absolutely awful, but I sat there and I just basically, I didn't hate it, but I sat there and was like, yeah, okay, oh, that's funny, yeah, okay, oh, yeah, yeah, okay, and walked out. I was like, okay, well, I've sat through worse films, and you know, how many films do we sit through in a year? 300 odd?
Too many.
Yeah, so it's not the worst film I've seen this year. It might be in my worst films of the year, but it's really, it honestly is just a case of made for kids. Basically, it's a 12 rated film made for 6-year-olds, but it has 12 rated content.
The thing with me is, because I'm a big Turtles fan, especially of the original cartoon series, and what Tyler Perry did with Baxter Stockman's character made him a whiny, sort of like giddy little schoolgirl, and annoyed the heck out of me. Yeah. Considering that, if you go on canon-wise, Baxter Stockman was turned into a fly. And that's it. That's what Baxter Stockman was turned into after. That's what Shredder did to him, turned him into a fly. And I thought he was horrible. Bebop and Rocksteady. Oh, I really just could not stand. They got Sheamus, who's a wrestler from the WWE, to play one of them. I could not stand them. They were constantly making quips. There's one scene where after they've just been turned into Bebop and Rocksteady, into their warthog / rhino form, they look in their trousers.
Yeah.
And then it's just, that's the kind of humour that we fell down. Stephen Amell as Casey Jones is really annoying. Casey Jones is a dark character. He's a dark, malevolent character. Yet he just played him like a one-dimensional one. The Turtles are... The only thing I actually thought was okay was the design of Krang. I thought the design of Krang was actually quite well done.
It was, I would admit that, yeah, but it was just so terribly, just kind of like, oh, yeah, really, and over the performance. Actually, who did the voice? I'm just going to see who did the voice, because it's Brad Garrett. I have no idea who Brad Garrett is, but his voice performance, his voice acting in it was terrible. It was terrible.
His robot was actually quite well done, and trying to bring in the Technodrome into the world itself just didn't work at all.
It just turned into like the whole part of the last half of the last two Transformers films.
Yeah, I was sitting in my cinema itself. I was sitting right next to the wall, and it's a good job that wall was padded, because I was constantly banging my head off it going, oh, I can't believe what you're doing with this. You're not making it a comic book movie. You're not making a cartoon movie. As a matter of fact, the cartoon is 1,000,000 times more intelligent than the dross that you've actually thrown at the screen thinking it's entertainment, and when in fact you're just making an absolute headache, and a nearly 2-hour headache. That's all I felt with it. I wanted the movie to end as quickly as possible. I thought the first one was bad, but not as bad as this. This is bad.
It's like I say, it's a film made for 6-year-olds with 12-year-old age appropriate or inappropriate humour.
Yeah, it's just awful. And I can't believe how much they've sexualised April O'Neil. How badly sexualised they made her. But we could be here all night yabbering on about the Turtles. We might actually have a little bit more of a yabber on when we quickly go over it again on next week's show. But we're heading into the Blu-ray and DVD section, so we'll take a break and we'll come back with that.
There was a real sense of you were doing something wrong, but that did give it that feeling of excitement.
When the reveal of the film happens, that's when it just becomes absurd.
And the atmosphere and just the sense you get whenever you go into it is undeniable.
It did absolutely zero for me, which could be for the hype.
What we've just discussed there is just scratching the surface on it.
Hi, I'm Eric England, the director of Contracted, and you're listening to From Page to Screen, the horror show.
And so on to this week's DVD and Blu-ray release section, where we're going to have a look at some movies. First of all, we'll go through the charts, but then we'll be going on to review these new releases.
R.L.Stein's classic children's scary novels make their big screen debut with Goosebumps. Then we have comedy sequel with Ride Along 2, the return to the big screen of Snoopy and Charlie Brown in the Peanuts movie, animated adventure with Capture the Flag, drama with Youth, and drama with hints of dark comedy in Our Brand is Crisis.
And of course then we'll have a look at some TV movies coming up this week that we'll recommend to you. It's going to be a short week because we are back on Sunday and it's now Tuesday, but there's a few things on that I think we've picked. So but as I say, charts, the DVD and Blu-ray top 10, starting at number 10 with Alice in Wonderland.
Classic Disney one. The reason why it's in the top 10 there, it's because of the fact that Alice Through the Looking Glass was in cinemas. Please just actually see that one.
Number 9 is Danish Girl.
It's fine. Alicia Vikander is the best thing about the film. I think Eddie Redmayne got too much credit.
Number 8 is Daddy's Home.
No, it's a bad comedy. It's just a really bad comedy.
Is it better than Turtles 2?
Turtles 2 is not intentionally a comedy. That's the problem.
It has its money moments. Number 7 is The Hateful Eight.
Yeah, it's way too long. We will always hark on about movies that could cut like 10 minutes, 20 minutes. This could cut a good 45 minutes to an hour out of its running time. But that's Quentin Tarantino for you. He likes to extend his movies too long. It's got its decent moments, but it's just his quality of filmmaking is just dwindling.
Number 6 is Star Wars The Force Awakens.
Well, I think we've done Star Wars to death. I watched it twice. Both times I thought it was a good, entertaining film. And that's rare for me with a Star Wars movie because I normally dislike them after the first viewing.
New entry at number 5 for The Fifth Wave.
It's a teen sci-fi story which feels, because the fact that it doesn't know what kind of audience it wants to appease to. It's rated 15. But it doesn't seem to be a 15 rated film because it's trying to go after the teen audience of like the 12s up to the 15-year-olds, when in fact there are maybe a few scenes where you think, you know what, you could have toned that down a little bit and it would have easily been made a 15. Yet when I was watching it I was going, there's nothing that controversial about it. Just because you've got young kids as soldiers, that's the most controversial thing about the film itself. Okay, then fine, but just tone that down a little bit. It's trying to be like movies like Tomorrow When the War Was Won, and I think that's a slightly stronger film than The Fifth Wave. Just doesn't know what identity it is.
And oddly enough, has been made into a TV series now as well.
Really?
Yep, Australia has done it. I think it's had 6 or 7 episodes so far now.
Because wasn't that supposed to get like a trilogy or something like that?
And it's been
exactly the same what they've done with the
Mortal Instruments. Yeah, they've made it into a TV series. Number 4 is Creed,
which we both really liked. Very good acting from Michael B. Jordan. Sylvester Stallone, he got a Best Supporting Actor nod at this year's Oscars. Very well created, very well acted by Jordan, taking up the torch now. So yeah, if you're not a fan of the Rocky series, it doesn't feel like a Rocky movie. It feels like it's actually properly evolved into something a bit more interesting. I think it's helpful that we've had movies over the last few years where it's actually put sport in a much more dramatic light rather than making it look a bit of a razzle-dazzle kind of thing. So if you look at movies like Warrior and even Southpaw as well, it's added more of a grit to it, and I think that's what helps these films more so. So yeah, it's a very good film.
Numbers 3 to 1, we have 3 new entries all at the top spots fighting for that. 2 of them are good, 1 not so much. So starting at number 3 we have The Big Short.
Yeah, we've had a deluge of movies that's based around credit crisis and money problems and things like that, and this is one of them. It's a very, very good film, very intelligent movie, but very interesting, very smart, very witty. It has its humorous moments to try and give you some light to the situation, what's going on, about the people pretty much losing their homes and about the crash when it comes to money. But it also, I felt anyway, that you sort of like didn't hate the people who made money from it because they realised what was going on and they were trying to tell people, you know what, something bad is about to occur, but they didn't listen. And so there was, you're an idiot for doing that, and so well done to the people who who made money from it. And yeah, it's a very well acted, very well created film.
Number 2 is Dirty Grandpa.
Absolutely awful film. It's a car crash of a movie because it just tries to take two actors who you sort of like have slight respect for, and just you go, you know what, let's do a lot of boob fart jokes kind of thing, and then that's the kind of stuff that you're going to do it. Let's reduce comedy down to its lowest bad common denominator, and that's the best you're going to get from the film. It's awful.
And so number 1 movie is Spotlight.
Yeah, it's a movie that takes a difficult subject to try and put onto the screen and actually tells a really gripping story. Again, down to the acting. I think the acting is superb in this film, especially from Mark Ruffalo. So yeah, it's a very well created film, very hard hitting movie, quite hard to watch at times, considering like some of the descriptions of the film itself. But it's still a movie that needs to be seen.
So that's your DVD and Blu-ray top 10 for this week. Moving on to this week's new releases. Goosebumps, which is directed by Rob Letterman. It is based on the whole story of the Goosebumps novels, but does this unusual thing of taking it being the view of the writer R.L.Stein. Is in the film a character played by Jack Black. The main character of the film is a character, Zach, played by Dylan Minnette. He has just moved into a new house with his mother. Things are sort of weird there. He meets the girl next door, Hannah, played by Daya Rush, and her father, played by Jack Black, who warns her of being friends with him and staying away. Keeps very, very secretive. One day, sort of Zach breaks into the house to see her. Ends up with a friend accidentally knocking over a book on the shelf, which happens to be one of the sort of the original kind of manuscripts for one of the Goosebumps books. What happens, of course, with that? You think, oh, it's just a book. No, it's not. It actually unleashes a big sort of yeti creature, sort of comes out of the book and creates havoc. Here's a clip.
I could have killed you!
That was a terrible throw.
What are you doing here? Go home!
Not until you explain what's going on.
I can't explain it.
We were almost just eaten by Frosty the Snowman, so try!
Okay, look! When I was younger, I created my own friends. Monsters. Demons. To terrorize my neighborhood and all the kids that made fun of me. And they became real to me. And then one day, they actually became real. My monsters literally leapt off the page. As long as the books remain locked, we're safe. But when they open, well, you've just seen what happens.
So it's a movie that follows that pattern of things like Jumanji and Zathura, where you have the kids thrown in the situation, all hell breaks loose, and they have to try and all hell of sort of big effects things and creatures and that sort of thing happening, and they have to come together, save the day, and fix things. And it's perfectly fine for that. It has some characters in it that are very, very weird things. You have this moment where they're fighting off all of these gnomes, which is kind of comical, but at the same time quite a dark sort of action sequence.
I watched that. I watched the Goosebumps film after I watched Krampus. And you've never seen Krampus, which involved the gingerbread man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of like parallel.
Yeah. It never kind of goes in dark. Like, well, not dark as in needing to get a high rating, because it is a PG film, like Krampus does, but it's a very sort of similar thing like that in some points. You do have there is a character of this, I can't remember the name of it, but this doll, like a mannequin, what they called a puppet one, ventriloquism dummy, thank you. That is sort of the one that's kind of releasing all these monsters, that's kind of creepy at parts. So if you're watching it with very young kids, they'll probably enjoy it, but they might find that a little bit off-putting. But it's a good, fun, typical kind of thing. It is that kind of, it's the kind of thing that you would have seen someone like Chris Columbus making 10 years ago. It's not groundbreaking by any means, but it's a fun family film, which are in kind of rare demand, like rare availability, those coming out, and it's a great fun fantasy, family, even horror at times, but nothing too much, that you can sit down and watch with the kids and enjoy.
and the character you're trying to think of is called Slappy.
Slappy, yeah.
He's actually very famous from the Goosebumps series. It has got a major feel of the Goosebumps television series. It never pushes its boundaries, but very closely gets to them.
Because I don't know that. I don't know the Goosebumps thing. So as someone who's never seen the Goosebumps thing, it works for me, and I'm guessing if you know it, what can you say in that regard then? Do you think it's faithful to it? Is it a good thing, or does it feel like one of these films that has nothing to do with the original basis?
Can you remember when the Tales from the Crypt Keeper, the animated series, not the live action one, when you watched that and you thought, criminy, this is a kids program? But you really enjoyed it, considering I was a huge horror fan when I was a kid. It was really hard to find that kind of stuff on TV, and so
and then Demon Knight came out.
Yeah, well, I'm not talking about like the TV series, because Demon Knight is based on the TV series live action one. There was an animated Tales from the Crypt Keeper, because the TV series was just called Tales from the Crypt. But yeah, when I first got Sky TV in, the first channel I actually was switching it over was Fox Kids, because that's where Goosebumps was aired. And so I used to always watch Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark and Tales from the Crypt Keeper, because I loved that kind of thing, and it is very faithful to the books. It takes a lot of characters from multiple Goosebumps stories, including the Gnomes and Slappy, and brings them into this movie here, and I think it actually does a really good job. Again, Jack Black is normally an actor who annoys the heck out of me, but I thought he actually played R.L.Stein really well in this film.
I think it does that clever thing of taking something, and instead of just going and doing a Goosebumps story, it turns Goosebumps into its own story, something different, which is quite nice.
Yeah, it's very meta on that front.
Yeah.
Ride Along 2. If that tried
talking of meta, and not.
No. Directed by Tim Story, it follows on from the original Ride Along. Surprise, surprise. It's a year after that. We've got Kevin Hart's character Ben, who's about to marry Angela, who's played by Tika Sumpter, the sister of Ice Cube's very cop heavy character, who just still does not like Ben. They, however, have to go over to Miami, where they've tried to need to stop this drug lord, who's played by Benjamin Bratt, who plays Pope, and they need to try and find some evidence to try and bring him down, and the only way they're going to do that is with the help of Olivia Munn's character, who plays a police officer in Miami, and also Ken Jeong, who plays a hacker. He's a clip with Ken Jeong at his most annoying.
Maya, what the hell is that? Right
there!
Drop your gun, man! Put it there! Drop it!
Hold on! AJ, stop screaming!
I'll shoot your face!
This is Alonzo, my explosives guy.
Give a damn! Put it down now!
Alonzo, holster your weapon.
Man.
They're cops.
You better drop it.
Put your gun away.
Put it down, Castro! Drop it!
It's down, okay? You put it down.
Ben, we're good.
Hi.
What the hell?
Again?
You've done this before?
I don't know, Tell you, James. Okay, I'm on edge.
Killers!
My nerves is bad, man. I told you to focus. You think I meant to do it? I thought he didn't shoot no shots. Oh my God! He a zombie. Headshot. Go.
Yeah, and so you've got that joke that follows on from the first one, where Ben keeps on overshooting his gun. It's a metaphor. What do you expect? It's the kind of humour that you're going to get through this film. If you didn't like the first one, then there is definitely not going to be anything to like about Ride Along 2, because the fact that they have got Ken Jeong in it, so you know as soon as they actually bring him into the forefront, you know that they are clutching at straws. It rehashes a lot of the jokes from the first one. It does the stereotypical thing where they don't get along at all, and it just doesn't. It's not funny. I probably grimaced a couple of times just to be generous to the film itself, but overall it's bad. It's just, I'm sick of these kind of films, these by the numbers comedy sequels, just because the first one did decent enough at the box office to go, you know what, we'll greenlight the sequel, because we know we're going to make exactly the same kind of figures again, and it's annoying because people do go to see it, and so it gives the studio impetus to make more movies. And so I wouldn't be surprised if this time next year we're reviewing Ride Along 3. It's a franchise that should have just ended after the credits rolled from Ride Along. It's a comedy film that I'm not going to say is awful, but it's a comedy film that's forgettable, and calling it comedy is, yeah, it belongs into the category of what's the point.
I'm not going to disagree with that at all. It's really one of these contemptuous sequels that you're just sitting there going, why?
It's what I always call, and it's a horrible category to put them into, but they're called nomedies. They're non-comedies. They're nomedies.
Okay, quickly on to Snoopy and Charlie Brown, the Peanuts movie, which is a adaptation of the original thing. I think I don't know what it was, the 60s or 70s, maybe even earlier than that.
60s, I think, actually.
Yeah.
Short stuff.
But you have the character of Charlie Brown, and you have the fact of him and all the other characters there. You have him and his dog Snoopy, and the Peanuts, the little bird as well, and it's all Woodstock. That's it. Sorry, I couldn't think of the name of it. But basically, you have that all going on with the whole thing of Charlie Brown living in the things, and a girl with the red hair moves in next door, and he becomes sort of fascinated. He thinks, oh yeah, she's really nice. I'd really like to know her. I'd really like to, go out with her and stuff. And it's a kid obviously, but he kind of falls in love with this neighbour, and decides that he wants to go out with her, but doesn't have the courage to do this, and is doing all things in his life. At one point, goes over because Snoopy, his dog, basically kind of forces him to go to the door and ring the doorbell. Here's a clip.
I can't believe I'm about to talk to the little red-haired girl. It's moments like this when you need your faithful friend. Yep. If there's one person you want by your side at a moment like this, it's your loyal dog.
Hello? Hello? She said hello!
And you have those clips there of the whole thing of that, and what makes you laugh is, I mean, it's a film it's Woodstock and it's Snoopy, but you have these little things of the characters and the way they interact with each other, and Linus and all those other with his Blanky and that sort of thing going on. And the thing is, I'm watching this, and all of a sudden I'm back as a kid watching Charlie Brown on TV, and it reminded me of those that I'd watched, and it's got that feel to it. It's got that faithful feel to it. The characters all feel real. I don't remember them in detail, but I just remember watching it as a kid.
So
and
you
being.
don't remember this as a story that's been done before?
I don't know. I don't.
Been done before. It was because I know that Charlie Brown used to be shown all the time before the Smash Hits Pulls Winners Party on BBC One. And this was a story that was already done before.
But it didn't matter for me because I was there, I was enjoying it. You have it all the way through it as well, and the things in particular I absolutely loved. You have this whole thing of the Snoopy character who is all the way through it having his own sort of imaginary adventures, fighting against this barren character in like airplane fights where he's basically flying around in his imagination on top of his doghouse. And there's moments like that where it's the kind of thing, if you're watching it and it was a typical film and it cut away to this happening, you'd be going like, what? But in a kid's film and like this, and just going with it, and it's just funny and it's witty and it makes you laugh and chuckle, and I had fun with it, and it did remind me of that as a kid. I don't think it would be as much of an interest to kids now. I think it is a film that is very nostalgic, and if you knew Charlie Brown growing up, you watched it, you're gonna rekindle that feeling of you're gonna have those moments, and it's got that magic to the way they're animated. It's obviously been had some kind of computer animation done to it, but it's still faithful to the characters, the way they look and the way they act and everything, and I really had fun with it. I didn't absolutely love it. I don't think it's the best film ever, it's the best animated film or anything, but I sat there and for the hour and a half I was giggling and enjoying it, and I was there, and it was like, yeah, had fun with this, good film.
I think we'll use that sound from now on, the sound of Woodstock, when we're watching a film and we're slightly disappointed by it when we review it on the show. So if we're just then you know we just slightly.
There's a great shot when in one of there's one that I absolutely love when it's one of these imaginary bits, and there's 5 planes in a row and they're all tied up, and one of the little there's like 6 Woodstocks, and one of them does something and all the others just go stand to the side and point at him, like, and it's just like it's just like, it's just that magic to it. It's almost kind of got that it captures that classic Disney feel in the way this captures that classic Peanuts feel.
Yeah. Capture the Flag, the second animated film we're looking at. It's a small little animated kids adventure film. We had a clip for it, but because we are slightly running a bit too short for time, just quickly go over the story, because I reviewed this in the cinema section. It was one of those movies that was thrown out during half term. It centres around a couple of characters, a 12-year-old boy whose father was originally going to go into space twice, but unfortunately it was just called off both times, and so he wants to team up with a couple of a girl who he's just friends with, to try and actually climb into a rocket and blast off to the moon to try and be in space. However, their grandfather catches them, they get blasted off to the moon, and it's up to them to try and find a way of getting back to Earth, because one of the missions that the father was supposedly going on, he was supposed to have been in that rocket. The film itself is very bog standard. It is one of those typical ones where it is a group of countries that's banded together to try and make a film itself, and it's sort of like it's throwaway kind of animated stuff. The animation is okay and it is nothing to shout about, but it's nothing to like dismiss. We could have been reviewing the new Top Cat movie, for example, when that animation in that movie looks absolutely atrocious. Looks very similar to the Top Cat movie that you reviewed last year.
Yeah, don't remember that.
Absolutely hated it.
I was thinking of that during the Peanuts movie review and thinking, do I reference that? Do I mention that? No.
Well, I've just gone and done it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not as bad as that, and I've seen much worse. Like there was a film that was released in cinemas a couple of weeks ago called Robinson Crusoe, which the animation in that looked very bog standard.
You want to talk bad one? The most recent one has to be the Tarzan one.
Yeah, that was awful. But it's not as bad as that. But it is still an animated film, which is by the numbers, very bog standard. It might entertain younger audiences, but that's pretty much it. It's not going to entertain anybody else. So I would say over the age of 10. They're just going to see a rocket on the front of the box and go, "Mum, can I have that?" And if it's like £5, you're going, "Yeah, it's fine."
Okay, next film is Youth, written and directed by Paolo Sorrentino. It is a drama centering around the main character, played by Michael Caine, who is a conductor who is now retired. He has gone sort of on almost like a holiday with his daughter, played by Rachel Weisz, to this spa where he's there to just relax and sort of take time. She's there for her own reasons. She's kind of keeping secret to herself. He's there because he's just sort of in his old age deciding to, want to go and just rest and take care of himself. He ends up being there with an old friend of his, played by Harvey Keitel, who plays a sort of an aging Hollywood producer who is struggling to, first of all, to come up with the ending of a script that he's working with some writers, and also struggling to put together other projects involving actors and actresses. One point who turns out to be Jane Fonda turned up and makes a sort of appearance in the film. And it's a film that centers around them being there, them chatting about things, but also the experience of that he's been asked, Michael Caine's character has been asked to sort of come out of retirement for the Queen of England, for Queen Elizabeth II, to perform for Prince Philip's birthday, and he flat out refuses for certain reasons that will sort of be revealed throughout the film as to why he will not conduct and why he will not let them use a particular piece of music that he's written. It is one of these kind of classic style films. There is some good sort of visual styling to it. There's a weird sequence where he walks out into a field of cows and basically kind of conducts these cows as they're sort of moving around and making noises, and it's a very, very odd scene. It's one that's very memorable from the film, and it stands out as there are a lot of them in a few very odd scenes in it. I didn't think it was a great film, but I did think that it has got two great performances in it from Michael Caine and Harvey Keitel, and it's one of those films that you watch it and it's a good drama, but by the end of it there are moments in it where I just found it dragged a little bit. I wished it had been a bit more sort of more apt and more specific with some of its scenes. It seems to have a bit of a vagueness to some parts of it, and it does go on for a little bit long, just over 2 hours. It should have been a shorter film, I think. but it's a film to see for a couple of great performances with the two of them and other actors around them as well, because you do have as well Paul Dano turns up as a young actor, almost like it's a kind of a pastiche on someone like Johnny Depp, that he's an actor that turns up there, and if you want to talk about sort of weirdness and things, he's potentially up for a film where he would be playing a younger version of Adolf Hitler. So at one point he turns up to like a dinner engagement at this spa in full dress and makeup as Adolf Hitler, and it's not done as a funny thing. It's not a comedy. It's not done like that. You sit there and it's just you're watching it. It's just a very abstractly but very weird moment in the film of very, very weird moments. But it's a interesting film to watch.
Our Brandis Crisis is the final film we're looking at, directed by David Gordon Green. It stars Sandra Bullock, who plays Jane. It's set in 2002, and it's actually set in Bolivia, and about a person who's actually trying to run to be pretty much the president of Bolivia, Joaquim de Almeida. He plays Castillo, and he needs the help from Sandra Bullock's character, because she seems to be this brilliant person who's able to turn a campaign that looks like it's on its last legs. She's able to turn it around because she's a very hot-headed character, and so she's brought in to try and make him look like the right person to be the president, because she's able to, like I said, turn a negative thing into a positive thing. However, they both clash into it, and it's just, like I said, it's up to her. We have a clip which gives you a feel of what the film's like.
Experience is important because the problem
is that you're slouching. Stand up, on the level. Come on, youth, vigor.
New question. Senator, how do you respond to people who are calling for constitutional reform and greater representation for the indigenous peoples of Bolivia?
Well, you do not use a blunt knife for surgery. These people are not educated.
I'm sorry. These people? Are you kidding me?
Enough! I've had enough.
What, have we
let's
slid
take 5.
backwards?
Everybody out.
Did you hire me?
Vamonos.
Did you hire me?
Vamonos.
No, I hired you.
Nobody hired me. I cannot be hired. Unless you mean in the, the technical sense, and yes, I probably was hired.
Let me make this clear to you.
Please.
I am the one in charge. Do you understand?
No, see, you're not in charge.
What did you just say?
Maybe nobody's in charge. Maybe we're all just rolling down a hill and there's no one at the wheel. I don't know. Sir, why can you not say what you're supposed to say? Where's
because
their
I'm
problem?
not just a puppet for you to play with.
Of course you are. Of course you're a puppet. We're just pawns.
Also, you've got Jane's nemesis, who's played by Billy Bob Thornton, who plays Pat, and he's on the opposite side of things, trying to actually prove that she's wrong and her campaign is flat. That's exactly what the film is like. It's flat. You expect much better from the actors involved in the film itself. You expect much better from the director, in David Gordon Green, because he's a really good director. But in this one, he just doesn't make an interesting movie. He tries to make Sandra Bullock's character very quippy and very interesting, and she's not. She's just slightly annoying, and that's sort of like indicative of what Sandra Bullock's career is like. She can do movies where she plays a really interesting character, but yet she can also play movies where you just find the person who she's trying to portray, just you want to tell them to shut up or stick a sock in it for a little while and just give us like 5 minutes so our brain can relax before we have to hear your whiny voice again. Just everybody involved just doesn't seem to be very interested in what they're doing, and that's shown on the screen itself. The film just doesn't seem to be very interested in what it's actually trying to portray, because it could have been an interesting movie and you could have had a very satirical, sarcastic kind of feel to the film itself, but it just never actually does that. It never follows that blueprint. So unfortunately, it's a film that just feels flat from beginning to end.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the thing is, it's a shame that like, the cast and everything. You heard in that clip there at one point, as Anthony Mackie turns up in a role and things like that. It doesn't know how to do what it wants to do, and it doesn't know how to tackle the subject, which is to do it. And it's almost like it's trying to go, we could do this satirically, but we don't want to do that because it won't work. But it would work if they did it properly. That could have been it's that kind of subject of, the manipulation of an election, especially given the way things are at the moment. I mean, obviously this was made in the last year, but the way things are with elections and such in the world and America and stuff, it could have been a very, very kind of, there was the opportunity for something like Wag the Dog to come out timely again, that sort of thing, and have something that would have been really sort of on the ball with the way the world is, and it just doesn't.
It could have even had influences of things like American Beauty, just in its underlayering kind of feel to it. Just try to interject some dark humor into there and just make it much more interesting. It doesn't even do that.
No. Okay, that's it for this week's films. We are going to go quickly through TV movies of the week.
I've got 3.
Okay, what 3 have you got?
Starting off with me first, that's right.
Yeah, I've got 3, but they're all on the same night.
2 films are on the Horror Channel, one's on BBC One.
Okay, none of mine then.
On the Horror Channel on Thursday the 2nd at 10:45, Donnie Darko. I adore that movie. Absolutely adore that film. And so it brought Jake Gyllenhaal to the forefront. And unfortunately don't watch the sequel. Well, it's sort of a sequel. Sort of.
Pseudo-sequel.
Yeah, it revolves around his sister, and it just absolutely just does nothing with the original source material. So you've got that. I'll leave my movie of the week to last.
Okay.
That's also on the Horror Channel. My other choice is on BBC One on Saturday the 4th, leading into Sunday the 5th, so it's very early in the morning, 1:45 in the morning. Thomas Shankland's The Children. Now, if children freak you out in horror movies, stay away from this film, because you're going to absolutely hate the little brats that are involved in this film itself. It's about a virus that hits this house during Christmas. It's actually the surrounding woods areas, but it affects the children, and the children become murderous. There is a scene which involves a child getting impaled under a door. So if you like that, if you sort of like hate children but you want to see them get their comeuppance in the horror movie vein, then it's good for you on that front there. But it is quite shocking in some scenes. It's actually being shown on the Horror Channel and on BBC One. But I'm choosing BBC One because of the fact that I've already got another Horror Channel one and
no adverts. Yeah. Okay.
It is a really good film, and Thomas Shankland, I don't think he's done a film for quite a while. I think The Children might have actually been his last film. He did a movie called W Delta Z as well, which is a very dark British movie. And so that. But my choice, surprisingly, is on Friday the 3rd at 11 o'clock on the Horror Channel. It's Mother's Day. Now there is
not the new one, yeah.
called Mother's Day, and that's out in next Friday.
It looks cinemas. Remarkably poor, like New Year's Day or something, whatever it was. Yeah, exactly. And it's
directed it, but yeah. This one has got Rebecca De Mornay in it. It's a remake of the 70s horror film. She is really evil in this movie, in Mother's Day. She plays it. She's so scary you actually believe everything that she does in the movie. It's quite hard to watch it. It's very reminiscent of things like Last House on the Left and I Spit on Your Grave. The original I Spit on Your Grave, not the remakes. But yeah, it is that gritty, nasty kind of film where it's about a woman who takes it out on this a group of people inside of her house with the help of her sons. And it's a hard watch, but it's a very, very, very good film, especially for Rebecca De Mornay's performance.
Okay, my 3 films are all on Saturday night. The main sort of one, not the one I'm going to pick, but the one to watch out mainly for is on Channel 4. Saturday the 4th of June is 10 Years a Slave, which is you need to go for that one. But at the same time, if you're not into that, because it's not for everyone's taste, there is a classic on E4, 9 o'clock, and that's Predator.
I had a feeling you'd go for that one.
Yeah, because it's actually one of the clips in our opening of the show every week. But it is one of those films that has, if you look at a lot of the films around that time, action films especially, you watch them now and you go, yeah, that's bad. It doesn't. They haven't aged well. Predator has aged remarkably well, especially for being sort of effects laden and having Arnold Schwarzenegger just basically being a muscle bound idiot for most of it. But it's a film that it has kind of earned the respect of, this was I think 84, so it's 32 years old. I mean,
it's those kind of films, isn't it, that was released around about that time, which seems to age brilliantly because you've got like The Thing and Aliens and all that kind of stuff.
And it's when things started to get their act together, and it really is a film that was. So I'm not saying that it equals 10 Years a Slave. It's a different kind of film altogether. So
to be honest, I would have actually rather watched Predator, because 10 Years a Slave, you need to actually be in the proper mindset to watch something like that.
But my choice is actually on after both of those, and the thing is, oddly enough, I think they might overlap as well. So all three of my choices overlap because it is on that night as well.
TVs.
It's film 4, 11 o'clock. So I think because the other films will have adverts and so be stretched out a bit. And that is Watchmen. Is my choice this week because I do just love that film. I do think it's Zack Snyder's best film.
No, Dawn of the Dead.
Well, I don't like Dawn of the Dead films, so. But I love the symbolism, and I'm a fan of the comic, but I love the film's version. I love that the film changed what it changed in it, and I love the character development and the way it's done. I think it's a great adaptation. And it's a very good film. The only problem is obviously being on film 4, it has adverts, and it's a 2.5 hour film, so you're basically going to be up from 11 o'clock at night till 2 in the morning.
Yeah, and word of one, if you it has blue wangers in it. I couldn't think of any other way to actually say that. I was looking at it.
Yeah,
or whatever,
hence the 11 o'clock.
It has blue wangers in it. That's the nicest way I can
Any children wondering what that is, ask your parents.
Yeah, and what the heck are you doing up at 11 o'clock at night as well?
Well, they don't have to be watching it, they're just hearing that.
No, I'm hearing this, but it's still 11 o'clock at night, and so if you're listening to it live, children, you should have put your fingers in your ears back then. I should have actually warned you. Warning, there is a word that might actually be you asking your parents, what's a wanger?
Yeah. Okay, that's it for this week's show. Going to quickly wrap up things because it is getting on 11 o'clock. If you're wanting to get in touch with us at all, you can contact us at places like email mondaymovieshow@yahoo.com, Twitter @mondaymovieshow, Stuart's on there at QuickClickTadpole, I'm on there at AHDVD, and you can find us on facebook.com/mondaymovieshow as well. And our website is
mondaymovieshow.co.uk.
Yay!
Did you get it?
No, I was giving you I was throwing it to you.
Oh.
Yeah. You can listen to us on iTunes if you're not obviously already. You must be listening to us somewhere. But if you're looking to catch up on episodes, there is the previous episodes for so many weeks going on there. On iTunes, on Podkicker, different places like that. You can also check us out. We have links to places, things like followingthenerd.com and frompagetoscreen.com, where, as you heard in the advert, things like the horror show, which Stuart is involved on.
One yesterday.
Yep, so that will be out soon, I expect, in the next few days. I expect. Will it be? Is it normally
Wednesday, Thursday?
Yeah. And there is also Following the Gamer, which takes place right here. With Stuart, I'm not involved in that one because I'm not so much a gamer.
This Saturday.
And so you'll be able to listen to that live at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, around a bit then. And I just want to give people a slight warning. On last week's show, Al made a bit of a whoopsie. Let's just say it is live, and so it can happen. And he got a bit carried away with something. He did make it a bit of a whoopsie. So you will see an explicit sticker beside last week's show, the last show that we did, because he made he did a bit of a mess up. We won't do that ever on this show, but there is a chance that it could happen.
We have.
Following the show. So, well, we didn't, but it was actually
a clip. Yeah.
But there is a chance that a swear word might happen during Following the Game. It's really difficult to try and reel both of those two in, to be honest. And so, if that's the case, it will have an explicit sticker. But that's not to say that the show itself will be full of bad language, because it needs to be minimum.
Anyway, back to finding the end of this week's show, because we're back next Sunday. As I said, we're moving the show around this Sunday. Yeah, so this week's show will be on Sunday. This is weird. Yeah. And we'll be covering, obviously, a couple of the films we'll go over quickly we've done this week, but then there are some other films out that week as well. Before we do play the clip from a film we're covering on Sunday, movie of the week,
Warcraft.
I agree as well. I mean, Money Monster, if you're interested in it. If you're not, though, have a look at Warcraft and you might be surprised.
Yeah.
So next episode, we'll be covering, amongst other things, The Nice Guys, which is the Russell Crowe and
Ryan Gosling.
Yeah. How can I forget his name? Because I'm a big fan of this.
Black.
Yeah. Written and directed by Shane Black. And a film that I have already seen.
I haven't, because I don't like the look of it.
No, but I'm gonna say to you, go and see it.
Okay, I'll think about it.
Because you basically have these two characters that meet. One of them is a private eye. One of them is kind of the muscle. I'm just gonna play a clip of the two of them. Yeah.
One's
Which one's?
sarcastic and dumb, and the other one supposedly thinks that he's really good at stuff. I'm not saying who's who.
Okay, this is a clip from the Nice Guys. We'll see you on Sunday.
Hi.
You're a private investigator?
Look, there's $20 in there, all right? Just take it.
No, I'm not here for that, I told you.
You and Noel hired me.
Yeah. If we can do this the easy way, we can do it the
Glenn.
hard way. What?
Lily Glenn, 2 N's. Old lady hired me to find her niece on Tuesday.
You just gave up your client.
I made a discretionary revelation.
No, you just gave her up. I asked you one simple question. You gave me all the
I
information.
thought that's what you wanted.
What? Now, I'm very sorry that you didn't get the message.
I get it, I dig it.
What about now? Give me your left arm.
Huh?
Your left arm. Give me your left arm. This one.
No!
Yeah, come on.
No! No!
Right, look, when you're talking to your doctor, just tell him you have a spiral fracture of the left radius.
No! No!
Deep breath. You mind if I have an apple?